My name is Zoe. I'm 32, and for as long as I can remember, I have believed that a woman's life is defined by the man she stands beside. Sometimes, you don't realize how perfect your life looks until you see the one glaring flaw that threatens to ruin the entire composition. I work as a senior curator for one of the city's most prestigious art galleries. My world is one of clean lines, muted colors, and silent, astronomical price tags. Image isn't just everything. It is the only thing. It's the currency we trade in. The silent language spoken in the rustle of a silk blouse, the glint of a vintage watch, the name of the artist you casually mention having dinner with. My boyfriend, Samuel. Well, he doesn't speak that language. He is 35. He is a master carpenter, a furniture designer. He takes raw slabs of wood and turns them into things of beauty, things of function, which sounds romantic, in a rustic, back to the earth sort of way, and it is, until you have to explain to a table of investment bankers and renowned architects what your partner does for a living. He works with his hands. The words always feel heavy in my mouth, coated in sawdust. We've been together for 4 years. We've lived in his apartment for 3. Because, let's be honest, his place was bigger, a beautiful loft space that doubled as his workshop, smelling perpetually of cedar and varnish, and he insisted on paying the rent. He was that kind of man, the provider type, solid, dependable. I always told myself it was sweet. His old-fashioned desire to take care of me meant that my entire, very generous salary could be funneled into the things that truly mattered. The lease on my Audi, my collection of designer coats, the weekend trips to wine country with my friends. Trips he never seemed interested in joining. Samuel was one of those men who found genuine bliss in the simple things, a well-made joint, the perfect grain in a piece of oak, a quiet evening at home watching some black and white film he'd seen a dozen times. Meanwhile, I was out there, networking, building a brand, curating not just art, but my entire life. Don't get me wrong. He was a good man. He paid the bills on time. He never forgot an anniversary. He could fix anything. But he lacked a spark, an edge, the relentless, hungry ambition that I saw in the men who walked through my gallery. The men who bought art not because they loved it, but because it was an asset, an investment, a statement. Samuel built chairs because he loved the feel of the wood. It was a fundamental difference that I was beginning to find suffocating. My friends, Amelia and Sophia, were always asking what I saw in him. Gently, of course. They were too polite to be direct. But I saw the questions in their eyes when we'd go out for drinks. Amelia's husband was a neurosurgeon. Sophia was dating a venture capitalist who had just taken his 3rd company public. They would talk about their upcoming ski trip to the Alps, or the charity gala they were chairing. And I would talk about the beautiful new dining table Samuel was crafting. The comparison was stark. And then, Damien entered the picture. He walked into my gallery on a Tuesday afternoon, a whirlwind of quiet confidence and expensive tailoring. Damien Renault, the property developer, the man whose name was on half the new, gleaming steel and glass towers piercing the city skyline. He needed art, an entire collection for the penthouse of his newest flagship building. I need something that says power, he told me, his eyes scanning the room, but not really looking at the art. They were looking at me. Something that says, I have arrived. I understood that language perfectly. We spent weeks together, visiting artist studios, attending auctions. He listened to my opinions with an intensity that was intoxicating. He didn't just hear my words, he seemed to absorb them. You have an incredible eye, Zoe, he'd say, his voice a low murmur. You see the value in things, the potential. It was everything I felt Samuel never saw in me. Samuel saw me as a constant, a beautiful, beloved fixture in his life. Damien saw me as an asset, an investment, a statement. The professional lunches became longer. They bled into after-work drinks at hushed, expensive hotel bars. He'd talk about his deals, his ambitions to expand into Asia, into the Middle East. His world was limitless, a stark contrast to Samuel's, which felt contained within the 4 walls of his workshop. I began to justify it to myself. This wasn't a betrayal. It was research. It was networking. Samuel gave me a home, a comfortable, stable life. But Damien? He offered me a glimpse into the life I felt I deserved. The first time it happened, it felt less like a choice and more like an inevitability. He had closed the penthouse deal, A record-breaking sale. We have to celebrate, he texted me. An hour later, a black car was waiting for me outside the gallery. It didn't take me home. It took me to the Beaumont, to the presidential suite. He was waiting with a bottle of champagne I knew cost more than Samuel's monthly rent. As he filled my glass, his fingers brushed against mine. To potential, he said, his eyes holding mine. That night, as I lay in a bed of impossibly soft sheets, the city glittering below us like a carpet of scattered jewels, I told myself a story. This wasn't about cheating on Samuel. This was about becoming the woman I was always meant to be. It was just a temporary escape. A little taste of a different world. A secret that would hurt no one. Living two lives is like learning a new language. You develop a different vocabulary, a different rhythm, a different self for each world. With Samuel, I was Zoe, grounded, loved, but restless. With Damien, I was Zoe, a name that sounded more exotic on his tongue. I was sharp, sophisticated, and thrillingly alive. The weeks that followed were a blur of carefully managed calendars and strategic lies. Mornings began with the scent of coffee and sawdust. Samuel would be up before dawn, already in his workshop, his hands dusted with fine powder. He'd kiss me goodbye, his lips tasting of the earth, and I'd feel a pang of something, not guilt, exactly, more like impatience, a desire to wash his world off me and step into the other. Mi days were Damien's. Text messages would arrive like secret communiques. Board meeting is a bore. Thinking of you. Saw this. Thought of you. A picture of a diamond necklace in a shop window in Geneva. He would send a car to pick me up for lunch at members-only clubs where the waiters knew his name. He'd order for me. Always the perfect wine. The most exquisite dish. He made my life feel effortless. Curated. With him, I wasn't just a gallery curator. I was a connoisseur of the fine things in life, and I was one of them. When I came home to Samuel, the contrast was jarring. The simple, hearty stews he loved to cook suddenly seemed peasant food. His excitement over a rare piece of reclaimed timber felt childish. Look at this grain, Chloe, he'd say, his eyes shining with a passion I was beginning to resent. It's over 100 years old. Can you imagine the stories it could tell? I'd smile and nod, while my mind was on the story Damien had told me about outmaneuvering a rival developer for a prime piece of real estate. Those were the stories that mattered. Stories of victory, of conquest. My contempt grew like a well-tended poisonous vine. It manifested in small cruelties. I'd criticize the way he dressed. You're not really going to wear that flannel shirt to dinner with my friends, are you? I'd scoff at his idea of a vacation. Camping, Samuel? Really? We're not 20 years old anymore. I kept pushing him, hoping to provoke a reaction, hoping to see a flicker of the ambition I saw in Damien. I wanted him to fight for more. For us, for me. But he would just look at me with his calm, steady eyes and say, I just thought it would be nice to get away from the city. Just the two of us. His contentment was a mirror reflecting my own deep dissatisfaction, and I hated him for it. One evening, I came home late from a client dinner. Samuel was waiting up for me, reading in his favorite armchair, one he had built himself, of course. I tossed my handbag onto the sofa. It was heavier than usual. He looked up and smiled. Long day? The usual. As I walked past, the clasp on the bag gave way, and its contents spilled onto the floor. My lipstick, my keys, my phone, and a slim, dark blue box with a familiar white ribbon. Cartier. We both saw it at the same time. The air in the room went still. Samuel bent down and picked it up. He held it in his large, calloused hands. It looked impossibly delicate there. What's this? He asked, his voice neutral. My heart hammered against my ribs. 1,000 lies raced through my mind. Oh, that, I said, forcing a casual laugh. It's a corporate gift. From the gallery. For landing the Renault account. My boss is thrilled. He looked from the box to my face. I held my breath, bracing for the accusation, the suspicion. Instead, his face broke into a wide, genuine smile. He stood up and pulled me into a hug, lifting me off the floor. Zoe, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you, he said, his voice filled with sincere joy. You deserve it. You've worked so hard. He set me down and handed the box back to me. Go on, open it. I stood there, my hands trembling as I undid the ribbon. Inside, a delicate gold bracelet rested on a bed of white satin. It was from Damien, a thank you for a particularly profitable week. It's beautiful, Samuel said, his eyes shining with pride for me. In that moment, I felt a flicker of something vile, a hot flash of shame, but it was quickly extinguished by a cold wave of disdain. He was just too simple to see, too trusting, too good, and it was going to be his undoing. For my 32nd birthday, I wanted a real party, not the quiet dinner for two at our favorite neighborhood bistro that Samuel usually planned. I wanted an event, something sophisticated, something curated, a reflection of the woman I was, or at least, the woman I was presenting to the world. To my surprise, Samuel was enthusiastic. "Whatever you want, Chloe," he said. "This is your night. I'll handle everything." And he did. He was incredibly generous. He hired a catering company I'd mentioned admiring. He brought in a professional bartender who knew how to make a perfect martini. He spent a fortune on flowers, filling the loft with the scent of lilies and orchids. For a moment, watching him meticulously arrange the lighting, I thought, maybe this is his way of stepping up. Maybe he finally understands. It was a fleeting, foolish thought. The night of the party, our apartment was transformed. It no longer felt like a workshop. It was a chic, urban salon. The lighting was low, the music was smooth jazz, and champagne flowed freely. My friends arrived, a glittering collection of the city's young and successful. Amelia and her surgeon husband, Sophia with her venture capitalist. And, of course, I had invited Damien. As a key client, I told Samuel. "It's good for business." Actually, Samuel had just nodded, his expression unreadable. When Damien arrived, the energy in the room shifted. He had that effect on people. He moved through the crowd with an easy grace, charming everyone he spoke to. I watched him from across the room, a possessive pride swelling in my chest. He was from my world, my real world. I felt a thrill, standing there, with my stable, dependable boyfriend playing the gracious host, and my exciting, powerful lover, holding court in the center of the room. I thought I had it all. I thought I was in control. The night wore on. The champagne kept coming. The conversations grew louder. I was standing with a small group, Amelia, Sophia, and their partners. Damien was nearby. Sophia's boyfriend was talking about their recent trip to Bali. "You two should go," he said, nodding towards me and Samuel, who had just walked over with a fresh bottle of champagne. "Zoe, you'd love the art scene there." Before I could craft a suitably non-committal answer, Samuel spoke. He smiled, a genuine happy smile. "Actually, I was thinking for our next big trip, we could buy a van, convert it ourselves. We could drive up the coast, stop wherever we want. No plans, no schedules. Just us and the open road." The words hung in the air. A converted van. The open road. I could feel the polite, frozen smiles on the faces of my friends. I could see the almost imperceptible arch of Damien's eyebrow. In that moment, his simple, heartfelt dream felt like a public declaration of mediocrity. My mediocrity. It was an anchor, dragging me down from the glittering heights where I belonged. All the resentment, the frustration, the secret shame I'd been harboring for years, it all came boiling to the surface. The champagne had dismantled my carefully constructed facade. I let out a sharp, brittle laugh. "A van?" I said, my voice dripping with a contempt I didn't bother to hide. "A van, Samuel? Is that seriously the best you can come up with?" The small group fell silent. Samuel's smile faltered. "I just thought—" "No!" I cut him off, my voice rising. "That's the problem. You think in such small, pathetic terms. A van, a workshop in the country, a simple little life." I was aware of the other conversations in the room dying down. I was aware of eyes turning towards us. I didn't care. I felt a wild, liberating power. "Look around you, Samuel," I said, gesturing to the successful people in the room. "These people have ambitions. They build things. They conquer worlds. My friends are planning trips to the Alps and Bali, and you're offering me a glorified camping trip." I turned to Damien, seeking an ally. Damien is closing deals worth 9 figures, and my boyfriend's biggest aspiration is to sleep in the back of a car. The humiliation on Samuel's face was stark, but he didn't get angry. He just stood there, taking it. His silence infuriated me more than any argument could have. "God, you're just dragging me down," I spat, the words tasting like venom. "4 years I have waited for you to become something more, but you're content being a man who plays with pieces of wood in a dusty workshop. A glorified handyman." The room was completely silent now. 30 pairs of eyes were fixed on us. I had the stage. And I delivered my final, devastating line. I need a partner who builds empires, not bookshelves. There was a beat of perfect, horrified silence, and then Samuel nodded slowly. He looked at me, his eyes clear and calm, and all the warmth was gone. It was like looking at a stranger. "You know what, Zoe?" he said, his voice quiet, but carrying across the silent room. "You are absolutely right." His agreement was a slap in the face. It disarmed me completely. I was prepared for a fight, for shouting, for tears. I was not prepared for quiet, chilling acceptance. "What?" I stammered. "You're right," he repeated, his voice devoid of emotion. "I am dragging you down." Before I could process it, he placed the champagne bottle he was holding onto a nearby table with a steady hand. He turned and walked towards the bedroom. I stood frozen, the architect of a scene I no longer controlled. I could hear the faint sounds of a drawer opening and closing. He returned a moment later, holding his wallet, his keys, and his phone. He walked past me, towards the front door. "Where are you going?" I called after him, a note of panic creeping into my voice. He paused at the door, but didn't turn to look at me. "To stop being your anchor," he said. And then he was gone. The sound of the door closing behind him was soft, but it echoed through the apartment like a gunshot. The party died a slow, awkward death. The silence was replaced by a cacophony of hushed whispers and sympathetic glances aimed in my direction. Amelia put a hand on my arm. "Zoe, that was intense." "He's just being dramatic," I said, forcing a laugh that sounded hollow even to my own ears. "He'll cool off and be back in an hour." But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. Something was different. In 4 years, through countless arguments, Samuel had never walked out. He was the one who stayed. The one who talked things through. The one who always came back. After the last guest had made their hasty, awkward exit, I was left alone in the beautiful, expensive wreckage of my party. His party. In his apartment. I collapsed onto the sofa, the full weight of what I had done finally beginning to sink in. The anger came first. How dare he? How dare he humiliate me by walking out of my own party? In front of everyone. In front of Damien. Then, the fear. A cold, creeping dread. I called him. Straight to voicemail. I called again. And again. 12 times. I texted him. A frantic, chaotic stream of consciousness. "Baby, come home, let's talk." I was drunk. I didn't mean it. Okay, maybe I meant some of it. But not like that. "You can't just leave. You are overreacting." "Samuel, please answer your phone." 47 texts. No response. The silence on the other end of the line was absolute. It was a solid wall I couldn't break through. I spent the next day, Sunday, in a hungover haze of anxiety and denial. I paced the apartment, his apartment, picking up empty glasses and replaying the scene in my head. Each time, my own voice sounded uglier, my words crueler. I called his best friend, Mark. "Have you heard from him?" I asked, trying to sound casual. There was a long pause. "Yeah, Zoe. I've heard from him." His voice was cold. "I think you should give him some space." Space? We lived together. There was no space. By Monday morning, the panic had curdled into a righteous fury. How dare he worry me like this? How dare he treat me with such disrespect? I changed tactics. "You abandoned me. At my own party. You humiliated me in front of my friends and my colleagues. Everyone thinks you're being childish now. You need to grow up and face this like an adult." Still nothing. Finally, on Tuesday morning, a single text message appeared on my screen. From Samuel. My heart leaped with relief. He was talking to me. We could fix this. I opened it. The message was 4 sentences long. "You were right. I was dragging you down. I'm working on that. Your things will be packed by Friday. Get them by Sunday, or they will be donated." I stared at the words, unable to comprehend them. My things will be packed. I called him immediately. Straight to voicemail. This wasn't happening. This wasn't a breakup. It was an amputation. Couples fight. They say horrible things. They work through it. You don't just end a 4-year relationship over one bad night. You don't just throw someone out of their home. My home. That evening, after work, I went to the apartment, my key in hand, ready for a fight, ready to cry, ready to do whatever it took to fix the mess I had made. I put the key in the lock. It didn't turn. I tried again. Nothing. He had changed the locks. I stood there in the hallway, staring at the door, the cold, hard reality of the situation finally hitting me. I wasn't locked out of our apartment. I was locked out of his. Pounding on the door felt primal. Each strike was a burst of disbelief, then anger, then pure, undiluted panic. Samuel, open the door. We need to talk. The door remained shut. A silent, wooden sentinel. After 10 minutes, the door to the neighboring apartment opened. Mrs. Gable, a sweet, elderly woman, peered out. Zoe, dear. He's not there. She gestured to a neat stack of sealed cardboard boxes by her door. My boxes. He left these this morning. He said you'd be by to collect them before the end of the week. My entire life, my clothes, my books, my stupidly expensive skincare reduced to a pile of brown cardboard in a public hallway. I felt a humiliation so profound it left me breathless. It took me 2 days to track him down. He wasn't at his friend Mark's place. He wasn't answering anyone's calls. Finally, I found him where I should have looked first. At the workshop, the cavernous space was filled with the whine of a saw and the scent of fresh-cut pine. He was at a workbench, his back to me, focused on a piece of wood. He looked different, stronger, more solid. Samuel, I said. He switched off the saw. The sudden silence was deafening. He turned around slowly. His face was tired, but not angry, not hurt, just empty. He looked at me like I was a stranger he vaguely recognized. We need to talk? I said, my voice trembling. No, Zoe, we don't. Please, I begged, taking a step closer. The tears I'd been holding back finally came. Tears always worked on Samuel. I'm sorry. I was drunk. I was trying to show off for those awful people. You know how they are. Yes, he said, his voice flat. I do now. The tears weren't working. I let them flow harder. 4 years, Samuel. You're throwing away 4 years over one bad night. No, he said, and his voice was firmer now, harder. I'm walking away from 4 years of you being ashamed of me. I was never ashamed of you. I wanted more for us. For you, he corrected. You wanted more for you. His words hit their mark, because they were true. Just then, my phone buzzed, and then buzzed again, and again, a torrent of notifications. I glanced down. It was a link, sent from Amelia, then Sophia, then 3 other people from the party. My stomach plummeted. I clicked the link. It was a video, filmed on a phone from across the room at the party. The quality was grainy, the sound slightly muffled, but it was all there. Me, drunk, vicious, my face contorted in a sneer, my voice, sharp and cruel, calling the man I loved a handyman, a man with pathetic dreams, an anchor. And him, Samuel, standing there, silent, absorbing every blow with a quiet dignity that, on camera, looked like immense strength. The video was 30 seconds long. It was the complete assassination of my character. And it was going viral. I looked up from my phone, my face pale. Samuel was watching me, his expression unreadable. You see, Zoe, he said softly, it wasn't just one bad night. It was just the first time you said the truth out loud. Ah. He turned back to his workbench, picking up a piece of sandpaper. A clear dismissal. Our conversation was over. Our life together was over. The fallout was swift and brutal. My first call was to Damien. I saw the video, he said before I could even speak. His voice was cold, distant. All the charm, the intimacy, was gone. It's not a good look, Zoe. Damien, please, I pleaded. It was a private party. I was drunk. My investors don't care if you were drunk, he snapped. They care about image, perception. And right now, the perception is that my company's art consultant is unstable. Our professional relationship is over. Please don't contact me again. He hung up, just like that. The man who had whispered about potential and limitless horizons had cut me loose to protect his brand. I wasn't an asset anymore. I was a liability. The next blow came on Friday. My boss, a formidable woman named Genevieve, called me into her glass-walled office. She didn't ask me to sit down. We have a problem, she said. Her fingers steepled on her polished desk. On her computer screen, I could see the video. My video. Genevieve, I can explain. There is no explanation, she cut in, her voice like ice. Our clients are billionaires. They are celebrities. They are collectors who value discretion and class above all else. You, Screaming at your working class boyfriend in a drunken rage because he wants to build bookshelves is the antithesis of our brand. She slid a folder across the desk. This is your severance package. It's generous. I suggest you take it and disappear for a while. You are a talented curator, Zoe, but your image is compromised. Fired. In less than a week, I had lost my boyfriend, my home, my lover, and my career. I had built my entire life on a foundation of image and perception, and in 30 seconds of brutal honesty, I had burned it all to the ground. The months that followed were a freefall. I moved into the spare bedroom at my mother's house, a room still decorated with the pale pink walls and boy band posters of my teenage years. It was a regression so complete, it felt like a parody. The Audi was repossessed. I couldn't make the payments without my salary. I spent my days applying for jobs, and my nights scrolling through the digital wreckage of my life. The video had become a minor cultural moment, a meme. I was gallery girl, the poster child for entitled classist snobbery. There were think pieces written about me. People I had never met debated my moral failings in comment sections. My carefully managed image was not just compromised, it was annihilated. Every potential employer would Google my name, and that video would be the first result. My career in the art world was over. Meanwhile, Samuel was thriving. I saw it through the curated windows of social media, through the reluctant updates from our few remaining mutual friends. He had quit his job. He and Mark had started their own business, Samuel & Co., Bespoke Furnishings. It turned out there was a massive market for high-end, handcrafted furniture among the very people I used to court. They landed a major contract designing for a new boutique hotel, then another, for a chain of exclusive restaurants. He was featured in a design magazine, photographed in his workshop, looking rugged and authentic and successful. The article called him a visionary craftsman, revitalizing an old-world art form. All the ambition I had accused him of lacking had apparently been there all along. He just needed me out of the way to unleash it. The irony was a bitter pill I had to swallow every single day. One afternoon, I ran into Amelia at a coffee shop. She was on her way to a yoga class, glowing with the easy radiance of a life untroubled. She was kind. She asked how I was doing. I lied. I'm good. Taking some time for myself. Figuring things out. She nodded sympathetically. Then, the inevitable question. Have you seen Samuel? She asked gently. Only what I see online, I admitted. He's doing so well, she said, her voice soft with genuine admiration. And he's seeing someone. She's lovely. A ceramic artist. Very down to earth. They seem perfect for each other. A ceramic artist. Of course. Someone who understood the beauty of working with your hands. Someone who wouldn't be embarrassed by a little clay under her fingernails. Someone who would probably think a trip in a converted van was the most romantic thing in the world. I'm happy for him. I lied again. The words felt like ash in my mouth. Today, 8 months after the party, I work behind the makeup counter at a high-end department store. I sell women the illusion of a better self, a flawless foundation, a bolder lipstick, a brighter eye. I sell them image. It's a language I still understand. From my counter, I can see the entrance to the new Samuel & Co. showroom that just opened on the ground floor. Sometimes, I see him through the glass, talking to clients. He looks confident, happy. He carries himself differently. He bought a house, a real house, with a yard. His new girlfriend, the artist, is often with him. She is beautiful in a natural, unassuming way that I could never be. They laugh a lot. I close my eyes and I'm back in that silent loft, after the party. After he left. I had everything. A man who loved me, a beautiful home, financial freedom. I had a life that many women would kill for. And I set it on fire because it wasn't a perfect picture. Because of one flaw in the composition. Him. Or so I thought. But here is the thing that no one seems to understand. The thing I cling to in the lonely hours of the night, in this pink-walled bedroom of my past. I wasn't wrong. Not really. The man he was with me was content. He was lacking ambition. The fact that he became this new, successful person the moment I was gone doesn't change the 4 years he spent being less. Perhaps I was cruel. Perhaps my timing was catastrophic. But the truth I spoke that night was still the truth. I wanted more, and he was holding me back. The world sees me as the villain, and him as the hero who escaped her clutches. But I see it differently. I was the catalyst. The pressure that turned his lump of coal into a diamond. I pushed him out of his comfortable mediocrity. I forced him to confront his potential, even if it was through my own ugly, drunken rage. His success story was written on the back of my destruction. His new girlfriend gets the finished masterpiece, the driven, visionary version of him, the version that I spent 4 years trying and failing to create. He owes his new life to me, and she gets to live in the world that I burned down to build.